Hello, hello, welcome to Mindset to Results. And today our guest is amazing Kimberly Collins. She's executive coach and Enneagram consultant. Hi, Kimberly.
Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome as an expert in emotional intelligence for leaders, for executives. Let's speak today why emotional intelligence is so important for leaders.
Emotional intelligence, frequently for leaders, is going to be our ceiling for growth in an organization as well as in our lives. A lot of times, our cognitive intelligence gets us into the door, our hard skills, things that we've gone to school for. And it's our emotional intelligence, our ability to understand and manage our own emotions, as well as understand and influence the emotions of others, is going to be that ceiling for growth. So it's incredibly important as leaders to be able to understand ourselves better so that we can make better decisions, create a more collaborative environment for our teams and for ourselves. We can be more productive that way, and of course, develop resiliency against burnout.
Yes, exactly as you said, that understanding yourself, right? Like leaders have to, leaders can be good leaders only when they can manage themselves first. And to manage themselves, of course, they should understand themselves. And it is not something that comes from education. It is not that you graduated from university and you are already totally equipped. The,
Yes, exactly.
Yes, this is mostly about like your inner work. Yes, your inner work when you really start digging deeper and understanding yourself, why you do these things, why you have these habits, why you react that way, where it comes from. So let's go and discuss this more, how people can really understand themselves better and also understand what is their big goal, like what they have really what they can achieve in this life, because not many people know they can have many education, different diplomas, and if you randomly ask them in the street what is your goal, they will look at you and ask, what do you mean? Like, what is my goal? Because not even many people know themselves, and it is very really very interesting how it happens.
Absolutely. And I think you're speaking exactly to some of those issues when we have low emotional intelligence or low self-awareness in particular, is that we can find ourselves on a habitual track where we are just checking boxes set in front of us for things that we want, that we think we need to accomplish. But if you asked us, what's your goal for this? How does this connect to your values? Then we actually might not be sure how that does connect to our inner life and what really motivates us. So, emotional intelligence is comprised of four different elements. It's self awareness, is the first, self management, or ability to manage what our emotions or physical or mental patterns are. Our our ability to understand other people's emotions, that's our social awareness, as well as our social management, would be our ability to influence the emotions or the patterns of other people as well. So, what we can control the most, and probably the most important of all of those, is that self awareness component, is knowing who we are, what is motivating us, what is driving the bus on our fears, on our thought patterns, on our beliefs, on our values, on our goals. These are things that they frequently sit on the periphery of our conscious knowledge, and yet they are driving a lot of the behaviors that we do. And so the work of a leader is to understand that we actually don't know a lot about ourselves. Like you said, we can have many, many degrees and a lot of certificates to our names and still not have a lot of self-awareness. This is something that doesn't develop by accident, but by conscious choice. And so it's incredibly important for us to bring those things from the outside of our peripheral knowledge into the center so that we can allow those positive aspects, our values and our goals, drive our behaviors, and not it be driven by our fears and or fears that could be causing us to go into different directions that we really don't want to go.
This is such an interesting and deep topic, self-awareness, because it seems like not many people really live consciously. It is like when child is born, first months and first 1 2 years, to hold those patterns, how to look at things, yes, what is good, what is wrong, all these reactions, how parents reacted to this, and the child just uh, learns everything from environment. And by the time when child can make his own decisions, his perceptions, like already he's already built those patterns of
Mm.
thinking and analyzing and just giving names to situations, yes, like attitude already formed. And this is so interesting that why we even eat and like food which we like. It is not because we choose that food consciously. This is because our parents like that food and they were giving it to us, and through repetition, because our parents was giving us this food all like again and again, and this is how we started liking this food. And if we go deeper, like most of things already, if we look why we have these habits, because somewhere we learned that, right? And something we inherited from our ancestors. And many people live life and do things, and they don't even know that this what they do, these decisions which they make, it is not even their decisions, it's somebody decided even maybe in the few generations before. And this is how it is so important, this awakening process. Like what you think, how what is the best way to waken people up? Because for me, like when I started learning this and started changing, transforming from doing this internal analysis and starting changing those patterns, I just, and also observing environment, you can easily see. So many people just live in those patterns, like in hypnotic state, and not even realizing that they don't live their life. They just repeating the same patterns on autopilot, and this is how all their life passes by.
Absolutely. And uh, like you said, that hypnotic state that we are constantly in is sometimes hard to see that we are in that hypnotic state because we may feel like we have a little bit of decisions that we are making. But like you said, who decided that this was the food that we ate? This was the bedtime that we had. This was the expectation for careers or schooling or matters of dress. These are all things that need to be looked at more consciously for us to be able to discover what how it connects to our own values and goals. And I would say that probably there are many different ways to improve our self-awareness, but this is not going to be something that happens by accident. It's going to take a conscious choice and a desire to make small moments where you can be quiet with yourself and to be noticing what emotions are going on, what physical sensations are going on, and what mental patterns are going on. So sometimes we can do things like setting a timer and quietly observing where we're at that moment. There are journaling practices as well. That you can journal before or after certain meetings to get aligned on your values or and your goals for those meetings, as well as, you know, if something didn't go great during that meeting, kind of uh, going after debriefing after the meeting. But one of my favorite ways to learn about ourselves is, of course, personality frameworks and the Enneagram, which is what I use with my consulting clients. And what the Enneagram is, it's a personality framework that is based on the idea that there are 9 equally valid perspectives of the world that are all comprised of a motivation that is unique to that type that is driving the bus. And the motivation is made up of core fears that we have, that we are so worried that are going to happen, but it's motivating how we behave in the world. We're constantly trying to run away from fears, and we're constantly trying to run toward desires that we think are going to help us feel fulfilled. And why I like personality frameworks is it pulls into the conscious knowledge our core motivations, and it also pulls in things like our triggers, our conflict patterns, and things like our communication styles and how we can understand others as well. So that's one of my favorite ways of helping clients become more self-aware is using one of these frameworks. You don't have to use the Enneagram. MBTI, which is the Myers-Briggs, is also a fantastic uh, personality framework. The Colby, which is the newest kind of to the business world, is cognitive framework, but it's great for understanding how we like to get things done. And all of these are, their main goal is to improve our self-awareness by, again, pulling those items that are in our blind spot into our conscious knowledge so that we can then make conscious decisions on that. We're not going to habitually react to the same trigger over and over and over. We're going to be able to look at it and stop and say, okay, I was triggered again by that message I heard that I am not doing enough. Now, when that trigger comes down the pike again, I can stop. And instead of reacting, I can pause and respond. So it's all about creating that space so that we can improve our self-awareness. But like I said, it's not going to happen by accident. It's going to happen by choice.
Yes, unfortunately, many people understand and wake up when something bad happens. We call it
Yeah.
emotional impact. Yes, so
Yeah.
emotional impact is something that, like a shock, that makes person really like waking up from that hypnotic state, from that rhythm, yes, monotonical rhythm,
Yeah.
and so understand it's like what is going on, like I don't want to do that anymore, and what is like what is the next, how I can do better. And this is most of the time this negative emotional impact. But how people can really wake without that negative situation?
Yeah. And like you said, those negative situations, they do bring so much up at one time. And unfortunately, a lot of times they are both a fantastic window into those blind spots that have been there all along. But it also comes at a time when so much is happening that if we don't have the tools for regulating our emotions and our mental patterns at that time, it will feel too overwhelming and we will find our fastest way back into a hypnotic state. Because even if we didn't feel happy necessarily in that hypnotic state, it was comfortable and we were used to it. And so what I always recommend is before we get to that point is developing ways of regulating ourselves so that we can really get that information that is there for us in negative times. But like you said, that doesn't have to be the only time that we do some exploration is when we are in a volatile situation that is negatively impacting us. And so developing those practices of small, consistent practices of sitting alone, taking the time to read up on some of our personality frameworks, or sitting and journaling. What's going on in my brain? How did I respond to that interaction with my family or coworkers that really negatively impacted me? What are some things that I hope for and dream for? There's many practices out there that help you align your values with the things that you want to do in your life. There's a great one by Brene Brown. I know she has it free on her website that you can go and go through all the values out there and decide which are the 3 or 4 that are core to your life, and then making decisions based on those. And all of these little practices lead to an improvement in our self-awareness. And like you said, most people out there are not self-aware. There is some stats out there by the authors of Emotional Intelligence 2.0 that they have an emotional intelligence test, and most people are walking around with a 75% out of 100, a C average. Most people are walking around with only about 30% of people who would be considered highly emotional intelligent. So this is not something that is going to happen by accident, again, by choice and by small, consistent practices that allow us time and space to get out of that hypnotic state, to be aware of what is happening so we can make better choices.
Yes, yes, so true. And let's speak now about emotional intelligence and communication, how
Mhm.
it affects communication, because of course, leaders, they communicate with many people, and how emotional intelligence will help them to be better leaders and to communicate the better way.
Absolutely. So the byproduct of understanding ourselves and being able to manage ourselves will help us be able to communicate what we need to communicate better. It will also, on the flip side, help us be able to manage our emotions when things start to trigger us or move towards conflict. So, us being able to know ourselves and how we react towards these certain triggers will help us be able to stay calm. Having high emotional intelligence is also about understanding the people around us, being attuned to the emotions of the people around us, not so that we can people please or placate, but so that we can communicate effectively. So, where we're not triggering their fight or flight responses as well. So it's that balance of being able to stand in our own authenticity and in our own awareness of ourselves, managing our own emotions, as well as being aware of the people around us and what kind of emotional state they are in as well. So again, not placating or people pleasing. I have to say that a couple of times because I know that's such a prominent problem, but about being an understanding of the other person and having empathy for them as well.
Yes, thank you for sharing. Also, this came to my mind that we initially we react faster than we think. Yes, and emotional intelligence helps to control that process. So we know that we see something, and if we don't like it or something which is not the same as we think, automatically we can say this is wrong. Like, for example, go change that. And I caught myself today. Why I am speaking about this? Because I caught myself today on this. My assistant created the page for our previous event, which we did, a public speaking event in Portsmouth recently. And he created all the page. And I was walking, and I just saw the title that was from Portsmouth to Surrey. And automatically I said, no, this is not wrong. This page I want just to be about previous event. And I wrote him, just keep simple, just put photos, videos from previous event. And then when I had time, I look again at that page. And what I saw there, that there were photos, there were videos. So only the title had to go to the end instead of be in the top. It should be on the top about Portsmouth event, and at the end it should be from Portsmouth to Surrey, London, check our next event. So actually what he had to change, only title, to change the title on the top and move that from Surrey to from Portsmouth to Surrey to the end before the button visit our next event. And then I caught myself, I thought, you look at me, like, look at me. I told him to change that to make it simple. And then I wrote him, don't delete anything. And I said, like, you just look at me what I'm doing instead of taking time, going through, analyzing, and just give him constructive instruction, like move that to the end. I told him immediately, like, change that, make it simple. And then I had to tell him, don't delete anything, wait for me, we will speak. So this is how, just one sample, how,
Yes.
yes, like how it is, like leaders, they can just react. Like if they, one word they didn't see correct, and this one word also, or one phrase can trigger something, and they can sell, like change it. But if
Mm-hmm.
we really
Mm-hmm.
step back, take time and analyze first and see it and really take time being present with that, not that we do something else and just in the corner we see something and we say change it. We really have to be present, totally present on that, and really like go good for that, take time and see what is really necessary to change, and only then tell people to change. Yes, because I think this example very common, yeah, because it was for me just like a big awakening.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I know I've found myself where I've actually read an email incorrectly. And instead of it being some very simple email, I read it as a threat or a call to action. And I'm off to the races fixing a problem instead of taking the time to look at it. And if I took a step back the moment before I checked that email, I probably could have seen that this was not the time to check my email. I didn't have the time to fix something. I was already stressed out. And I opened up the email, and instead of seeing it as an exchange of information. Again, I saw it as a threat, and all of a sudden I'm off to the races. And like you said, if I had had the moment to get present with myself, I would have said, I'm feeling extremely stressed out right now. Maybe I won't check my email. Or I'm feeling extremely stressed out right now. I'm just going to set this to the side. Uh, so, self awareness and self management, if we boiled it all down, we would say it's be present and slow down. Like, you don't need to do this moment. Get regulated, get grounded, and then you will be able to make better decisions for moving forward, for interacting with the team, for giving instructions on that project. But so many times we do these hypnotic, habitual things that put us into even more fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses, and we just don't show up our best. We can eke it out in the end. And of course, there's always room for repair. Sometimes that's even a better way of connecting with people is repairing afterward, but that's not our best selves. And it's usually just stresses us out more if we're not present and we move so quickly. We have to fix things more later.
Yes, and also the situation I was contemplating on it. Like when we are so busy and we do many things, just I told myself, just think about that person, about my assistant. Like in this situation, he put time, he put set everything, and instead of telling him initially, oh, thank you, you did so good, let's just make this a little bit tweak. I was just, I told you just make page about previous event. I don't want it to connect it to the next event. Why all this confusion to create? Yes, so like, um, like uh, if we just take really set, put ourselves in their shoes. Yes, like
Mhm.
really, we can look at things from our side. Like, yes, it was in my mind, but what if we understand that this person had perception? Yes, that also is right. Like he had idea how not only show that previous event, but also how encourage people to check our next event. And he just put it above, and I wanted it to be down. So it is a little bit shift, but it is much more to appreciate that person did that,
Mhm.
did all the page and how they feel. Yes, like I just
Mhm.
like how I would feel. Yes, if I did the work,
Mhm.
and instead of like somebody appreciating me, somebody would tell me, no, it is all wrong. Just do it simple. Do it this.
Right,
Yes.
right, right. I think it just speaks to how much stress and strain that our leaders are under is how many in inputs and pulls on our time and our attention. And so it's again slowing down, like you said, putting ourselves in the other person's shoes is social intelligence, is our ability to say, this is how potentially he or she would feel if I if they received this message. Um, and it's again about that slowing down, but it also speaks to the immense amount of pressure that business owners and entrepreneurs and leaders are under to be able to handle so many different inputs and pulls on their time and attention. So again, it's a lot of compassion for everybody involved, but that ability to be present and slow down and put ourselves in somebody else's shoes will improve our communication and our ability to collaborate so much more.
Yes, and also appreciate people who work with you and encourage them. Yes, even when they do take initiative and do something
Mm-hmm.
that they think, instead of telling, oh, everything is wrong, we can encourage them. We can find something good in what they did.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then focus first and tell, yes, this is good, and then
Mhm.
only tell them, okay, this is good, but let's just change that a little bit and make it even better. And in this case, they will be encouraged to bring the initiative. Otherwise,
Mm.
it can be, if it is not this way, but as I shared, as I did, it can make people be afraid to do something by themselves, and then
Mhm.
they will be waiting to you to tell them all steps, all small steps, which also
Yes.
won't
Yep.
like to do.
Yes. And you're speaking to one of the better byproducts of having an emotionally intelligent leader is that they can create teams that have a lot of psychological safety, which is that ability for team members to be themselves, make mistakes, offer up ideas, and not feel like they're going to have negative backlash from their colleagues or from their leadership. And what's great is that that means that our leaders can make mistakes as well. They are humans, just like everybody else. And they're going to offer up ideas that might not make sense or it might not work. And they can also make mistakes and show what that looks like as well to make a mistake. That circling back, hey, I'm sorry I fired off that email. I was, going to the grocery store, picking up my kids from soccer, and I just looked at it quick and I thought, oh, no, not like that. And there's so much compassion when we are able to be authentic and human with each other. And that's what ultimately creates psychological safety is that ability to own our stuff, know our stuff, own our stuff, and repair when we need to.
Yes, and also again, it helps to create the good environment and encouragement and trust when leaders can say sorry when they make mistake.
Yeah.
Yes, like
Hmm.
when you realize that you did wrong and maybe you hurt the person who works with you, it is always good to say sorry and just have an open conversation, yes, to explain the situation, and then, of course, learn the lesson from this situation, that you don't repeat it every day and every day you say sorry and do again the next
Right.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yes, so
Yes.
mhm.
Coming from the parenting world, and of course, with any parenting data, that there's always conflicting data, but there's data out there that shows that it's not about being the perfect parent, but about circling back and repairing when something didn't go well. And I always like to, relate that to the leadership world, that it's not about being a perfect leader. It's about circling back when something hasn't gone well and repairing that relationship. Hey, my bad. I read that wrong. I'm sorry. I reacted uh, out of character for myself, and I wanted to let you know that this is what happened. This is how I'll do it differently, and I'm very, very sorry. There's so much connection that can happen when there is honest and authentic repair after the fact. So that just because you're not perfect doesn't mean that you can't be a good leader. It's again about knowing your stuff, owning it, and then being willing to repair when things don't go well.
Yes, exactly. And also in communication, I think that it is important to really find time and tell people how we appreciate them. Because again,
Mm,
we can be busy and we can just think that it is just people do their job, they get paid for, and this is just normal. But this really matters for them so much when they have,
mm,
when they do and not receive only money as salary, but when they receive these words of appreciation and gratefulness, it makes their day, because not all people just work for money. They have
mm,
want to be appreciated, yes, because this is their life, this is their time, energy, efforts which they put, and it is not just exchange for money to pay bills and just cover other expenses, but it is really that human touch that makes people to really appreciate their work and come into work every day with great intention and be happy by doing what they do, because they know that this is what they do is appreciated. This is important, that they are part of something big. And leaders, yes, the good leader is one who really understands these emotional needs, not only physical needs to get salary and to live, but really this emotional needs which every person has, to be appreciated, to be to feel that he is a very valuable part of the process.
Absolutely. And like you said, I think people are coming into the workplace. Yes, we have to pay our bills. Yes, we have to be able to, meet those needs, but really we're looking for connection. We're looking for that greater meaning, being part of something bigger than ourselves. And like you said, that all comes from appreciation and the human touch in the workplace. Otherwise, it, we would all work online at home, but a lot of us, we crave that time and that connection with another person to see that we are valued, that we ourselves would be missed if we were not there. And that comes again from a great leader seeing that emotional connection as just as important as those skills being coached in another person as well.
Yes, and I believe that a really great leader will do that self-reflection every day. At the end of the working day, we can do self-reflection and journaling, like what was good, what situation happened, and how I can do it better next time. Why I did that, or why I said that. There should be something that triggered that reaction. And so when we become aware of why we do things, because it is the same triggers, and when we understand what was exactly, how I can do it better, this is how we can grow, and this is how we can improve environment and also improve our relations with people who are working with us and for us.
Absolutely. And it also helps you as an individual when you have those moments of being able to sit down and reflect on what went well or what didn't go well. You're able to create an environment that allows you to work in a slipstream. Maybe you're a person who needs a lot of human connection and you love having open door policies and come in and talk to me whenever you want to. Or maybe you're someone who's really drained by people and you need to have concerted time away from people so that you can recharge and reflect. And there's no wrong way, but it is all about knowing what drives you and what helps you work the best as well. And so having that time to reflect, it also helps you be able to soothe those emotions that came up. These triggers that come down the pike, they're not just things that we react to, they're things we're afraid of. And so sometimes there needs to be a moment of, hey, I know that you heard in that interaction that you are not wanted or that you're not doing enough. And that got a big reaction out of you. But let's take a minute and say, what do you need to do to appreciate yourself for how hard you're trying? So there's a lot of self compassion and self soothing that goes into this as well. And it's only healthy leaders that are able to create healthy teams. So sometimes what I see in leaders is these giant hearted people who just want to wrap their arms around a group of people and lead them, but they burn themselves out because they're not seeing that a healthy leader is what creates a healthy team. And so that comes from understanding themselves and being able to put the boundaries around their time and their emotions that will help them be able to show up consistently for their team.
Yes, yes, we can love people as much as we love ourselves.
Yes.
And to appreciate other people, we can only when we appreciate ourselves.
Yeah.
So because this is just a mindset, and if we are so busy when we don't have time for ourselves, it will probably be the same, that we are busy and we don't have time to for other people who work with us to tell them how important their work is and how we appreciate their work. So this is all related. So again, if we start from self-love and appreciating ourselves instead of beating ourselves up and thinking what I didn't yet do in my long list, and every day just thinking, oh, I didn't do it, I'm not good. So focus on what you already do better and what you did from your list, and celebrate even small wins. And when we shifted attitude towards ourselves, this is how we can also start celebrating people around us wins and what they do for us.
Absolutely. Like you said, that mindset of appreciation, who gets appreciation, or that mindset of lack and criticism, that's what it begets as well. And it's a very interesting study would be, how am I talking to the people around me? And that being a clue for how you're probably talking to yourself. And you'll notice too, the emotions that arise if we just get still enough of, stress or frustration, uh, that comes from that mindset, just from having the mindset of, I'm not doing enough, I'm not getting enough done on my to-do list, and how we're talking to others in the exact same way that we are talking to ourselves. Absolutely.
Yes, it will have ripple effect. That is why
Hmm.
it is so important for leaders to be mindful, and mindful they can be when they set time for themselves, when they
Hmm.
find a few minutes to journaling, yes, to write
Hmm.
and reflect about the day, or when they set plan for the next day in the evening. Yes, in the evening planning what they will do next day. So when they wake
Hmm.
up, they're not just running around the house thinking how many things they have to do, but this is already written as priority. So when they wake
Yes.
up, they know what is the most important thing for them this day. It is number one, what is then, and this is what will help to focus on one thing at a time, because all these reactions and chaotic thoughts and also behavior happen when there is no plan in the head. Yes, like when
Mhm.
head is so when there is so many things in the head. Yes, and this is why we can start not seeing people around us and not feeling what they can feel, and we can hurt people. But if we are disciplined, if we have clear schedule, we know what is when, what is the first thing, second thing, and of course between we have to put time for ourselves. Yes, not that all our day is fully booked from 6 to 9 o'clock in the evening and there is no
Yes.
time for us, because if we want to book it, we can always book and there will be never time for ourselves. We have to
Yeah.
consciously find time for ourselves, and it again comes from awareness that we have to take care of ourselves and be priority, and we know that we have to block time when we focus on different tasks, and then set 15-10 minutes or half an hour for ourselves when we can have
Mhm.
lunch, when we can reflect and connect with people.
Absolutely. So, uh, like you said, our minds can be so loud, and we can be in such a hypnotic state that unless we stop and pinpoint what it is that is incredibly important, it's a high value item, not just urgent and not urgent and unimportant. I'm thinking of those Stephen Covey squares that are are helping us prioritize. But if we can say, these are the things I need to get done, and these are the times I'm going to get it done, and allow ourselves to say, it's just as important to prioritize myself as it is to prioritize that one-off email from a colleague. Probably it can wait. That we can take the time to kind of grab our time back from other people. And like you said, our minds can be so loud sometimes that I recommend, and it's something that I do as well, is have a morning and an evening practice of allowing those thoughts to get on page and allowing myself to plan for the next day so that I'm able to be productive when I need to be productive. I'm aware of those times that I can't be. productive and I can just let that time go as well, but be really mindful. Otherwise, things will just come in and grab your time, and you will get to the end of the day and you've just walked like a robot through the whole day, just reacting to everything, no mindfulness to it.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Kimberly. It was amazing conversation. I really enjoyed it. And I'm sure that people who are listening to us also learned so many lessons. So I want to ask you another question before we wrap up this episode. What are non-negotiables for you? Like one or two every day?
Non-negotiables for me, for my own uh, practice would be have a morning journaling practice that I always do every single day, and an evening kind of reflection practice. Now, I am a mom of three kids, and I have own a business and do all sorts of different things. I'm also a musician, so I like to take the idea that uh, adaptability allows me to be consistent. Consistency is one of my values, and so sometimes I'm not going to get a full practice in, but non-negotiables would be some kind of journaling in the morning and some kind of planning in the evening so that I can wake up the next day and know where I'm supposed to be, as well as what are my high priorities. And then, of course, other non-negotiable would be time with my kids.
Yes, and about leadership, we know that health is very important. Yeah, because from my experience, when I do exercises, when I go gym,
Mhm.
or I also love to dance or play tennis, or when I do sport
Yeah.
activities, I'm more productive, I'm more focused, I'm more disciplined, clear, and more calm and down, like more grounded. If I skip activities, this is very different. I feel very different. I can be not so much focused, and it is like time is not going so much productively for me. What did you notice from your experience?
Absolutely. I am a big believer in a daily walk, and that's another thing that I practice daily. And I believe we have kind of a shelf life on our on our productivity that we really only have, I think it's about 90 minutes of really focused time in chunks. So a 90-minute chunk would be the maximum. And then we need a little bit of a break. Otherwise, we're putting in time, but we're getting less output from it. And so I absolutely believe having moments where we're able to get into our bodies and physically move, get some of that stress out of ourselves, help us be more grounded. It also helps us get a little perspective. I can't tell you how many times I have started out a walk. I call them rage walks. You know, something really bad happened, and I'm just going to go walk the block. And I've come to the end of the walk and said, "This isn't a big deal," or this is my perspective on it, this is my creative idea on it. So there's so many wonderful things that can happen when we get out of our brains and out of our emotional responses and into our bodies, and move our bodies that will help us kind of clear the cobwebs a little bit and help us get a little bit more perspective. So I'm a big believer of daily exercise, whatever that looks like and however much is possible. Even small 5-minute walks, or you know, 10 minutes of stretching or something like that will help you get more into your body and kind of clear those cobwebs.
Yes, thank you so much, Kimberly. I believe that uh, uh, people who watching us, they would learn more from you because you look amazing and you look so young and beautiful. So I think
Oh, thank you.
women would like to reach out to you and ask more secrets, what you do to look amazing.
Just running after three kids. That's what it is.
Yeah, this is exactly like having three kids and having business and look so bright and beautiful as you are, shiny.
Oh, thank you.
There should be some secret, so maybe next time you will share that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I
Yes.
will. Thank you.
So before we wrap up this episode, if there would be one advice, like something that's really important, or maybe what shifted your perception or was important in your life, what would that be?
Right. whenever I've started out on some kind of change campaign in my life, say I wanted to get more exercise in my life or eat healthier or start some kind of self-awareness routine, I know in my life, I always like to say, the bigger the better. We got to just clear the slate and start from new. But those times that I've done that, it has not been sustainable change. And so this is my kind of call to action for anybody considering a self-awareness program is start small, smaller than you think. So small that it would be silly not to do it. And then just try to be consistent with it and have a lot of compassion with yourself along the way. So start small, be consistent, and be gentle with yourself. And the change is all about making 1 degree turns towards a life that you want. And so it doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to go on a 2 week meditation retreat. You can just take 2 minutes before you walk into work and do some breathing and see where you're at and send yourself a little love so you can walk in more prepared and more grounded. So be, start small, be consistent, be gentle with yourself.
Amazing, amazing advice. I love that. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for being so beautiful and so empowering guest on our podcast. And I'm looking forward to see you again in our future episodes.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's been a wonderful time.
You're welcome.